Obviously, everybody wants to buy a house, even on 160K. It's probably impossible, right? You know, I think that's where you got to get real.
Throwing Australia into a recession now will possibly be the only way to lower house prices.
The whole leaving the family at the age of 18 has only been a new phenomenon in the last 20, 30 years.
Guys, sometimes it just feels like, you know, we record once a week, we release an episode every week, but that week just keeps happening faster and faster. Like it just feels like only moments ago that we recorded.
Man,
the
I
last
thought that was
episode.
just me.
Yes.
Beginning to feel
When you're having fun,
Christmas.
Just goes quickly.
It's
We're
just
having fun,
crazy.
mate.
We
We're
are
fun.
having a lot of fun because we're talking about Australia's favourite topic. We're inspired by Australia's favourite topic, which is property, and we're hoping to inspire some of your property conversations as well.
Good intro, man.
Mate,
much better than the one last week.
So much better than the one last week. I'm Michael Carboni.
There was an intro last week.
Come on, man. Let me do the intro. Let me finish the intro. I'm Michael Carboni. My friends call me Carbs. And I'm here again with Chris Ferris. Hello. Say hello so the people
Hi, Michael.
can hear. Jason man, how are you?
Hello.
And Savannah Lobe, how are you?
Hello.
I'm the only one that says that right.
Yeah,
Oh, I know.
Lobe.
I
It's the
know.
best.
I
Oh, is that how
appreciate
you
it.
pronounce it?
Lobe.
I did not know.
Lobe. It's not
How
Lobe.
would you?
You can
I
address
thought it
me
was
with
just
my
lob.
full name now. Lob. Yeah, Lobbo.
No offense.
There's a
Lob is
That's
spelled
what you
very
would
different.
say.
There's a double
Yeah.
BE.
I
Double BE?
know. It's the Dutch way, man.
Yeah, right.
She's in your store.
Mate, she's on our website. Guys,
It's very true.
it's true, man. Come on, man. Anyway, guys, this week, again, I didn't want to do too much like research and planning. So what I've done is...
I'm noticing a
sound like
trend.
experts.
I'm noticing a trend
Didn't want
with you.
to.
Bit of a
Didn't
trend
want
with
to.
me. There's a
Chose
little
not
bit
to.
of a trend. But we have so many great conversations happening on our YouTube page. So a lot of good discussion points, a few good questions as well. So I thought we'd have a little bit of a round table Q&A.
Great idea, Mike.
Shoot the shit.
Yeah.
It was a great idea. Maybe been yours. Was it yours?
I think so.
Well, thank you. It was a
I
great
think it was
idea.
yours, yes.
But guys, why don't we kick it off? And I'm going to go from the top. There's probably a few here. Let's see what happens. Let's see where this goes. Let's have a bit of fun. But we had on from our 25th episode recently. So we had Robert Heyman. He made a comment which I thought was very interesting because we often talk about migration. And Chris, you talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
Right. Migration levels are at all-time highs. It's hurting supply in the property market.
Yep.
But Robert Heyman says it sounds disastrous, but throwing Australia into a recession now will possibly be the only way to lower house prices. That said, we're in a per capita recession, so I might get you to explain that already. And the only thing propping Australia up is migration, which is why government won't slow it down to sustainable levels.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, to the second point, it probably is. We talked about last week how property prices are probably being sustained from a couple of things, but one of those things being immigration. So is immigration propping up the Australian economy at the moment? Well, there's probably a good argument to say yes. I mean, if we talk about some of the services inflation data, that's probably off the back of immigrants coming in, probably needing new things to get here from the services side of things, maybe logging into that education course they want to. I don't know, right? So
Well, and doesn't
Yeah.
the employment figures, you know, the one that you were a bit surprised about,
super surprised.
show that there are the jobs there being filled and
Correct.
need filling,
Correct.
right? Because if that wasn't the case, then there'd be a different story. So,
That's right.
So it's probably more managed migration, I think, rather than So
Yeah.
if you have the housing supply to support the migration,
Great.
then great. That's definitely going to add to economic growth. But I think the problem at the moment is
I think they're running at like 70 to 80,000 net migration a month at the moment, when historically it's like 25 to 30,000 a month. And I mean, we all know last year was 700 and something net migration, which is the current record. I say current because I feel like it's going to be broken this year. And we're currently having 2 months where we've had 70,000 this year alone in January and February. So immigration, I mean, if they turned it off, yeah, it probably would see some damage in the economy for sure.
So is that
But
why they're keeping it high? I mean, according to Rob's comment, we're in a per capita recession already. Do you agree with that? What's that mean?
No, I don't think so. It's per capita, so
Yeah.
per person here.
Yeah.
That we're in recession, but I don't think that's correct. I mean, going back to the turning off the migration, I think there definitely would be some benefits to lowering it down. So we're not saying turn it off to zero. We're saying reduce it. There definitely would be some benefits to the people here already, to the Australians here already. If it means having higher migration which is going to lead to higher interest rates. I think the majority of Australians would vote to not have higher migration, right? Unless you've a retiree with millions in savings.
I don't look
There must be
potentially.
a skill shortage then. Like surely, like
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the immigration is skills based.
Guys,
So,
on episode 22, it was an episode about the Bank of Mum and Dad, which is really interesting. And Marco Schkina had a question for us, and might be a good one for you, Jace.
Right.
Marco said, "Great chat. Thanks, Marco. Thanks, team. Finally, was good to hear some options for the younger people that feel like they can't do it. We need them to remain positive and show them how it can be done on an average income, not 160K. It is doable. More examples or perhaps a real-life case study would be great to hear. Keep up the great work, team, and don't feel bad about plugging your business," which there'll be an ad for that later.
What's he
Jace?
saying? Just to clarify, when he says do it, what's he talking about exactly?
It's doable, like buying property is
Buying
doable.
property.
Buying your first home is doable.
Without having like 160 grand income.
I assume, the show's called Property Now. I assume he means not
Yeah,
buy
what
a
was
pair of
the
Nikes. It was a Bank of Mum and Dad, so helping people get in. Correct.
Right.
Yeah. So look, I think it's definitely doable, right? From my personal experience in our business, assisting first home buyers, a lot of it does come down to expectations. Around what you're looking to purchase. Obviously, everybody wants to buy a house in a great suburb, close to everything, and it costs $2.5 billion.
Nice.
Right. So on average income of 80, 90K, it's hard to do, right? Even on
Well,
an
it's not-
income of
It's not
160,000.
hard to do. It's
Right.
impossible.
It can't be done.
You're exactly right. Right. So even on 160K, it's probably impossible.
Yeah, right.
Based on how much you need to borrow. But the expectation is that, I think that's where you got to get real is that's the wish list. Right. But it doesn't mean that you won't be able to buy a house in the future. So you might have to look at buying an apartment, buying a unit, buying a townhouse, buying a villa. Right. But in the longer term, 10 years later, as you capture that capital growth because you own a property now, right, as you pay down that debt, as your income increases, that could be something to upgrade into. Not necessarily a guarantee because prices also increase on those houses that you want to live in right now as well. But I think that's what's really important to consider is not saying I want to live in this type of property, I want to live in this area, but because of all the macroeconomical factors, it's all their fault. No,
So
I
you're talking
can't
more
do it.
like having some stepping stones in between.
Yeah, correct. Or just compromising. Right.
Which is the advice you get. The older generation, we always hear it. Like they didn't start by buying the house that they're living in. Like they stepped up to that. And the original home, I look at my parents. Their original home was, it was affordable. It was small. The family was growing, and then they stepped up to a bigger home, and now they want to go back to a smaller home because they're getting to that age of downsizing. But this is the cycle, right? And I mean, sometimes I guess our generation and below, we have these expectations that we need everything right now. You speak about this all the time, Chris. It's the instant gratification. It's the Uber Eats right now. I want my. Who can be our sponsor this week? I want my Frangos immediately.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly right. I think with, say, the previous generation, they were more focused on property ownership. Whatever I can afford, I'm going to go buy a property.
But do you think it was because it was more in reach?
Well, not necessarily, because, if we're just talking about property ownership and not talking about the type of property, the areas. Right?
Like the previous generation that they would have been buying, you're saying, in the 90s.
Yeah, correct.
Like prices, everything was different.
Yeah, look, it's definitely different, right? It's not the same, but it doesn't stop you from buying a property.
Yeah.
Right? Unless you're in a situation where, look, you really can't buy a property. Right? You don't have any borrowing capacity or whatever the situation is. But if you're not in that situation, you can buy something. That's where, for example, I think back to my parents buying a property in a suburb that wasn't popular. Now it's become a popular and sought after suburb, but at that time it was out in the sticks.
Yeah, gentrification.
Right, but if I talk to, say, some first home buyers about buying in Western Sydney, the reaction is, right? That's $780,000 for a 4-bedroom townhouse. Oh, but that's a housing commission suburb. So if you've got that sort of mentality, that makes it really difficult. And then you just sit on the sidelines as the property prices continue to increase, and you don't make a move, you don't take action, you don't buy anything, and you don't get to capture the growth. right? So you further delay yourself from, is the goal property ownership? I think that's the main question.
I think it's like if it's your first home, like if I think from my own perspective, I'm probably overthinking the whole process because I'm like, okay, this is such a big investment. I want to make sure that it's the right investment, whether I'm going to be living in it or I'm going to be renting it out. So there's like a certain like non-negotiables. So I don't know. Do you feel like people come in a lot with like unrealistic expectations? Like especially first home buyers?
Yeah, look, it's hard to say if they're unrealistic. I mean, that's what's on their wish list, right? So I can't say, you shouldn't have that. Yeah. But I think, based on your personal financial situation and your capabilities, then you got to shortlist on what's within reach. Yeah. And based on what's within reach, what is the best property for you to buy in what area? So it can't be, I want to buy something for 800 grand, right? But because there's nothing for 800 grand, I won't buy it. Why don't you buy something for 800 grand that's a bit further? It's not the ideal suburb.
Just to get in.
Yeah.
Just to get in because it's talked about a lot, that the long-term projection is that the value of the property will increase.
I think you touched on something, Sav. Analysis paralysis is a big deal, and we can spend a lot of time trying to make the right decision. Yeah. When realistically, you speak to anyone that has purchased property, and everyone has a story of the one they should have bought, the one they should have bought instead, the one they didn't buy, the one they shouldn't have sold. So, and I do this all the time, but I go, man, I wish I did that instead of this. But how do I know that would have been the right decision? There's always something. There was always a better option in hindsight. It's a lot of what if. So I think sometimes you got to cut a lot of that analysis and just go, okay, these are the facts. This is what I want. These are my goals. This is the advice I've been given. This is what I can do. Yeah, I don't need all the flashy stuff right now. I'm going to have this suburb right now. My goal is to eventually get somewhere else. And let's go. Let's get started.
I think the rent investing is a really viable option that people are taking these days. I think
absolutely.
If people want to live closer to work or closer to where their kids go to school, they rent in that location and they invest even in another state or something. I think that's been a real option that people have taken in the last. I don't know if it's a new trend, but it's in the last 10 years.
Definitely. It's a great segue as well. Red Dead had this question. So Red Dead, probably a video game player. Red Dead Redemption, I'm guessing, Jace, you're the gamer.
Oh, right. Why is that?
No, that wasn't Jace. Wait, did you ask this question?
No, is it based on physical appearance? Or?
Red Dead on it. We had an
workout,
episode 23, Hex and Housing, Red Dead. And Red Dead makes a lot. Thank you for watching every week. He or she makes a lot of comments on our YouTube page, but some suggested topics, and there was a bunch of suggested topics. One of them is rent investing, and maybe we can unpack that a little bit. And this could probably be a good topic for the future. But rent investing, what is it?
Oh, mate, yeah.
Sorry. Come on, man.
Damn cue card.
You're the one who started with the segue.
Look, so rent investing is, let's say you want to live in a particular suburb, but you can't afford to buy there. And you may not, it might be in your strategy to not even want to own that property, right? So you rent in a particular suburb and you buy, and your investing strategy is in an alternate suburb. And that might be the property that you live in. So you don't own your principal place of residence and you're renting there, and you have an investment property that you rent out. Yeah. That's in a nutshell rent investing.
Yeah, rent investing, what people normally say is it's living where you want and buying where you can afford.
Yeah.
And it's
maybe you should have just done the same.
I'm just
giving you a chance.
This isn't the Michael Carboni, but you can call me Carb show. This is Build Property Now. It's four of us. It's a conversation. It's a barbecue chat. Let's have some lunch. Rent investing though, Jace, what is it? A good strategy? Is there more detail that we need to understand?
I definitely think it's a good strategy, because when you're reinvesting, it means that all the debt you have, or your mortgage debt, is tax deductible.
Yeah, that's what my accountant
It's an income generating debt, so that's a good debt, right? So it's not a debt on, say, a car that's depreciating value, doesn't generate any income for you, or compared to a home loan for your actual property that you live in, because that doesn't generate any income for you either, right? And it's not tax deductible. So,
what about the selling part, though?
Sorry?
The selling part.
Oh, yeah, look, the selling part does make it. Yeah, it does make a difference.
Yep. Versus your principal place of residence.
But thanks to the capital gains discount, right? So you get a 50% capital gains discount when you do sell it.
Just keep giving those landlords some benefits.
After owning it for 12 months, and that's a fact, right? So
can we unpack that? So if I bought something for $1 million and I sell it, say my whole cost base, including all the costs, is $1 million. if I sell it for 1.5
Yeah.
within 12 months, that 500 grand profit gets taxed at the full rate that I earn my income on.
Well, it gets added to your taxable
Personal
income,
income, yeah.
But sometimes some situations where people choose to sell is, say, for example, one partner's not working due to mat leave, paternity leave, and not earning any income. So during that financial year, it's actually quite a good idea to sell it because that profit gets added onto, say, an income of zero.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're earning, say, 100 grand and you add another 500 grand on top, you're paying through the roof.
And so if you sell it outside of the 12 months, that 500 grand
Gets discounted.
by half.
Yeah, to 250.
So you pay tax on 250.
Yeah, correct. So
that's for your investment.
That's a huge difference. Yeah. That's a massive difference. And there's other strategies as well where you can use super to sort of, reduce your taxable income when you get that sort of profit. So yes, in comparison, it's not as good as not paying any tax, but there's still lots of benefits available.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Definitely.
But I just want to add one more thing. The real con, though, I think around rent vesting that doesn't get talked about a lot is having to move.
Yeah.
So I recently saw something on TikTok about someone that's rent vesting, and he's got kids. Having to move is a real issue because there's not much notice. I think I recall 6 weeks notice.
Depends if you're in a lease or outside
Yeah,
of a lease.
and then you have to go somewhere else because the current owner of the property is selling it.
Oh, right,
Right,
okay.
so-
So this is for where you live.
Correct.
Yeah.
If you're doing a
Yeah.
rent vesting
Yeah,
Yeah,
strategy.
renting. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
so-
I can speak to that personally.
Yeah.
So rent vesting was a part of our strategy. We had an investment property where, and we wanted to move closer to the city, closer to work. Wanted to try the inner west.
The lattes.
The lattes were the
Bay Run.
No coffee with me. The Bay Run. Hey, Mel,
No
now-
coffee. You're an Italian.
No,
man.
no milk. No milk. No
Your
milk.
veins are full of coffee.
Okay. I would literally plug it right in, if I could. Like
You
just
do already. You have like 6
Maybe
a day. mate.
caffeine can
I would
sponsor us.
maybe we need like Lavazza. Lavazza, if you're
In fact, it's been
listening.
about an hour. You haven't had it.
That's why I'm shaking. But yeah, no, so we were investing, right? And to be fair, we wanted to trial a suburb that we hadn't lived in before. It was, 30, 40 minutes away from where my wife and I grew up. We were just having kids and we're like, let's trial this suburb. Let's rent. So we're getting the rental income over here. We're paying rental income over there. That's another point as well.
Is that neutral?
No, well, not exactly, because this is a thing. Sorry, I'm jumping around all over the place. I need that coffee far out. But so one thing people say, the early definition I had of rent vesting is you buy where you can afford and you rent where you want to live.
Yeah.
But where you can afford to buy, the rent you're going to get isn't necessarily going to be the same as where you want to live as well. There's a reason why you want to live there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So the rent we were paying was probably a couple of $100 a week more than the rent we were receiving. But we did those figures. We worked it out. It was possible. And at the end of the day, it worked out for us. Right. But rent vesting was a big part of rent venting. I'm inventing the word. Rent vesting was a big part of our strategy. But then something strange happened. Right. So we were in the process of speaking to Jason and his team about a loan, and I actually wanted to buy another investment property, or my wife and I wanted to buy another investment property. That was our plan. So we were looking at the avenues, what was our capabilities, what was the capacity, starting to think about where we should buy another investment property as well to continue on the rent vesting journey. Now, what also happened is my kids are about to start school in the local area. We now have roots and friends, and I love walking up to get my latte and jumping on the ferry to go to work, and it was fantastic times. Agent knocks on the door and says, "Hey, routine inspection," but it was the boss of the agency doing the routine inspection instead of the. Well, he said,
Getting
"Mike,
ready for sale."
He goes, "Michael." I go, "Okay, mate. I won't say his name, but I go, bro, why are you here? Come on, man. What are you doing here?" He goes, "Oh, Michael, I'll be honest with you, the landlord's going to sell." I'm like, "Okay, great."
I was going to say, like, I just don't like it.
I just really wanted to see where you live.
Michael, I just don't like
We've
it.
had a lot of reports from the neighbours.
I'm not going to say. No, I'm not. Just stop. I'm not going to. There's jokes. I'm not going to say them. But he said, "Look, they're going to sell," and I said, "Well, mate, I'd like to." I just naturally, it came out of my mouth. I go, "Well, I'm going to buy it." Right? Not thinking that would change strategy, but I just wanted the option to be there because, like, we didn't want to move. We love where we are and it's great, right? And so from there, the discussion happened. And for my wife, like, this is what you're saying, Jace, right? To have to move around or have to take the kids out of school or, like...
Oh, it's painful.
All of a sudden, like...
Packing those boxes.
All of a sudden, it becomes an issue because we love where we are. So the decision was, hey... we sold out. We changed our strategy, and that's one of the mistakes that I go back. Not mistake, but I go back and think, oh, what if we did this instead? That's one of those moments, right? The analysis paralysis. But we sold the investment property to be able to buy.
So you see, one of those mistakes is that you would have continued doing the rent investing and just had three or four investment properties over the last few years.
I think if it was up to me, and this is coming back to Jason's point, if it was me personally, I would have kept rent investing. I would have kept buying investment properties and been more than happy to maybe upgrade where I'm renting as well and go into a bigger house and pay and move around rentals. But when you have a wife and kids, and when your kids are at school, and when your kids have school friends and they play sport on the weekends, and you have all these things,
it's ingrained in that. It's a community, right?
All of a sudden you go, hey, what if like we get kicked out and we can't find a place, and then what happens there?
Man, I can't imagine right now with people trying to find rentals is really difficult. Imagine getting 6 weeks notice. You have to find a suitable property.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
Yeah, it's 4.
If you're outside of a lease, it's 4 weeks.
Wow. It's
in
like
a lease,
the amount of stress you would have because you still got to go to work.
That's right.
Man, it's so stressful.
And no guarantee that you won't have to do this again in like a short period of time.
And it's interesting too, because I look at the price of what I'd be paying in rent at my property now, and I go, man, that's terrible. And then I look at the price I'd be getting in rent for my investment. I go, man, that would have been fantastic. So I'm in 2 minds as well.
Absolutely.
But rent investing is a lot of fun. But keep in mind, like, make sure you do your figures, because it does sound nice. But with rental prices so high, like, do the figures work for you to buy where you can afford, get that rent, and rent where you want to live? I don't think the actual figures are going to marry up exactly each time. So make sure you do your due diligence and you check that, you get your advice. But man, I think rent investing is probably a great topic to unpack. Have you ever rent invested, Sav? Do you have anything to add to this?
No, but it's definitely my strategy as well.
It's your strategy?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's like considering like, where do I want to live? Like I also want to be able to get the grants. So I am considering, okay, maybe I just temporarily move out to an area where I don't necessarily want to live long term to get the grants and, set myself up, but then, and then flip it because,
that makes sense.
But long term, I would say.
Because you haven't purchased yet. So your strategy would be to rent invest.
Yeah, long term, but potentially move in initially.
It just feels like, we record once a week, we release an episode every week, but that week just keeps happening faster and faster. Like, it just feels like...
Yeah, and another thing is, usually when you take out a loan for your home, often you're tapped out of any further buying capacity.
Yeah.
So if you want to buy another investment property, it's really difficult because serviceability
I wish you told me that before I changed my whole strategy.
I've only learned it this morning myself.
From this chat.
Red Dead had a good comment. It was good. Yeah. So rent investing, great topic. Maybe we should go with another one. And Red Dead says spicy topic, the future of house prices.
Spicy.
It's very spicy. Where could they go, He-Man?
Oh, the future of house prices.
Like, how far into the future?
Man.
Well, like 2050. Let's say 2050.
Mate,
I don't know, 10 years. 2030.
How about 10 years?
2034. Are they going to double, Chris?
From here?
They always double, right? Don't they always double every 10 years?
Not always, but in the last 40 years, every 8 to 10 years, it's doubled.
But that's insane.
Yeah.
But how is that even possible? Like,
it is insane.
A medium price is $1 million.
Yeah. Oh, what's funny is I saw on TikTok again, right?
That's where you get your
That's where we get our research from.
Man, that's right, the most reliable source. Better than Wikipedia because it's more current, right? Yeah. So someone was flicking through a property.
I saw that one too.
Did you see that one?
If you want part one.
And it was like Austral, 230,000.
But did you get annoyed from that video? I'm like, just show the whole freaking thing. Stop making different parts.
Correct, right? And it was properties, Cecil Hills or whatever, $400,000 house.
Yeah. Did you see the Austral 5 acres or something?
Yeah, it was all trees.
385 grand. I'm like,
but it was all trees. It was like, this is the farm. This is bush, man. This is farmland.
And I think
that was 2000.
Yeah, it was not even in the 90s. Yeah, 2000 something, right? Yeah. That's crazy.
Those times.
That's crazy, right?
Amazing.
And some of the properties that we look at, when our clients purchase a property, we do like a report to help them see how much it was sold for previously. And you look at some of them, 2014, it was sold for 50% cheaper. So that tells you 2014, right? 2024, it's doubled. Other ones, it's gone up by 70%. Gone up by 60%. Very rarely we see one that hasn't gone up much.
But I think when you talk in the context of anything price wise and into the future, everything feels expensive when you're in it now.
Yeah.
And then when you try and anticipate what the price of something's going to be in 10 years' time, if it's $1 million and it's going to go to 2, you think, oh, how can that happen? But then when you're in that moment at 2, that's what it is.
It's because wages increase as well. Yeah.
Not in the same proportion, but like if you look back at like petrol 10 years ago, or house prices 10 years ago,
Or bag of chips.
or
10
bag of
years
chips 10 years ago, everything was cheap. Everything was cheap.
Man, that is so true because even with
everything's
my
expensive now.
like with my circle of friends or even with my clients, everyone complains about how much they had to pay to buy the property.
Yeah.
Right.
But nobody complains 5 years later.
No.
Right?
Oh, right. Okay,
Everyone would
that's
then
really
say,
good.
and this is 100%, everyone would say, wow,
Yeah.
I'm glad I paid $1 million for it. But at
Yeah.
that time, 5 years ago, $1 million, people would be in shock. Wow, you paid $1 million for this house in Burwood?
Yeah.
You know, or 15 years ago. Wow,
Or the one in
that's
Stratford, you paid $8.5 million.
wow, that's massive.
Well, that's why they say property, it's a long-term game, right? And people compare property or the share market, right, all the time. The difference with the two is the share market moves very quickly up and down, up and down.
Depends.
Usually.
If you're buying an index versus the actual shares, depends.
Shares now.
The index is different.
The index typically, yeah. So
So the index is like
so-
a basket of the top 20 or top 50. Or
So
top
buy
100 shares.
EFTs, not financial advice. But so the share market and people not, but this is what I think people say. Oh yeah, safe as houses. Where does that come from? Because they're comparing it to the share market. Share market typically up and down. Houses also up and down, but
Not
it's a
as
lot
extreme,
slower and less extreme.
Yeah.
So over a 10-year period of time, it looks like it's gone up,
The
Yeah,
ups and downs
correct,
are
correct.
smoothed out.
but it's actually
Yeah.
like
It's also not valued every day.
it's not valued every day.
But if you had to value your property every day, it'd be the same as the share market.
yeah, plus shares you can buy and sell like 100 times in one day.
Yeah.
Whereas exactly
Correct,
right. So there's a lot
correct.
of differences, and that's why there's a
Very
security.
liquid one.
If you buy, over the period of time, fantastic. So okay, all right.
Definitely up from me.
So
that
10
is.
years is
Yeah,
up.
they're going up.
Yeah.
I mean,
Far up. What is it going to be? Are we going to look back and go, are our kids going to be? We've had this conversation before. Are our kids going to be like, Dad, man, 1.2 million was so easy for you?
100%. I think so, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
So
Especially houses.
What is your house, Jason, going to be worth in 10 years now?
Oh, man, I'm hoping a lot. Because I have to sell it and give it to the kids to help them buy their houses.
True. But that's the only way they're going to be able to buy. Sad.
Is it all going to stay with me? I need more bedrooms. You know, there's for some cultures, like all the families stay together. So
Oh.
you got the grandparents, the parents, and the kids are
100%.
all together. Like,
100%. Saw a house sold in my area, $4 million. You know, the average house price I think is 1.5. 8 bedrooms. And the buyer is going to have 3 generations live in it.
That's
Grandparents, parents, and kids.
That's actually beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
it might be annoying for the kids, but like
Why?
I reckon it's
Why is that annoying?
I reckon the kids would be like,
It's not. The whole leaving the family at the age of 18 has only been a new phenomenon in the last 20, 30 years.
yeah, but would you put yourself in the kid's shoes? Would you feel like you haven't made it? You haven't done it on your own? You're still a kid?
I think it's how the
Maybe you're
parents
still a kid?
portray it to the. I'd love my kids to stay
I
and
would
be as
love
long
it.
as they want to. No
I tell
dramas.
my kids stay as long as you want, but don't they want a sense of achievement? They did it. They could buy. They're out on their own.
Or they probably have 6 investment properties in WA because
Yeah,
they've living at
true.
home for that long.
Yes.
So let's not rent vest. Let's like
Give our kids the
Let's
advantage.
do
free
friendship,
Hotel
like-
vest.
free vest.
free vest.
Give the kids the advantage. I mean, if you're deciding to have kids, you need to try and ensure that they're going to have a great future and set up themselves.
But I guess
right?
that $4 million, it's divided by the amount of little families in the big family, right? It's not like the grandparents bought it and everyone just lives there rent free.
Probably. Yeah, you just don't.
Can
You
you,
just don't
ask
know.
them for next week? Like,
Yeah, 100%.
get them on the show
100%.
next week.
Yeah.
We'll
I'll
record
just-
live from their house.
I'll just look up the information
There's
on
gotta be a
RP
spare bedroom
data.
out of
Probably
the eight.
live,
Yeah,
surely.
yeah, and
Is
then
there
I
a spare
just
bedroom in the 8? Maybe. It's funny that the TikTok you flick through it. It reminds me of like Marty McFly. Like, let's go back in time and just like
yeah,
Back to
yeah.
the Future. What a
100%.
series.
How
Man,
good is
that's
that?
yeah. But seeing those prices, it is depressing, man. Again, going back to your point around what you wish you known or you should have done. It's like should have bought that acreage in Austral.
Yeah.
Bought
wish.
3.
Yes.
Guys, we're going to try something. Speaking of TikTok,
Okay.
I'm going to break up the questions with a potential new segment. It could completely bomb. It might be okay. It might be terrible. You might have to help me, Peach, but let's see. So I call this segment, you're going to love this. Have I told you about this?
No.
This segment is called PropTok.
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 Yeah,
I
PropTok.
can't even say it.
PropTok.
It does have a
PropTok.
Prop
Lobe.
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 Prop
so
talk.
let's see if we can get this up on the screen, guys. We're going to live react to a property bro from TikTok.
Property, bro.
Yeah, so like,
Right.
so I'm
Property,
like,
bro.
Oh God.
who did
Property,
I pick?
bro.
I didn't pick you, Jason.
I'm obsessed with Justin Hems and what he's created. Just that whole thing is incredible. But Justin comes from money. Like, his parents were wealthy. They lived on the water in Vaucluse, had a big house and all the rest of it. And I caught myself last night going, oh yeah, fuck, it's easy for him because his dad was rich, his mum was rich. Why wouldn't he be successful? But then at the same token, I was laying there going, no, that's actually worse for Justin. Imagine growing up, never needing anything, never having that inner like dog to go, fuck, I want to go create what I didn't have. Everything's there. Like, why would I work hard? It's probably worse to grow up with privilege than the opposite. All you've got to do is go on Instagram, TikTok, and just jump into the comments of some of these posts, and it's just like, it's easy for you, you've got money, or it's easy for this. The mentality of people is like, oh, of course you can go and make more and more money because you need money to make money. I mean, all the guys and girls that I know who have got pretty substantial businesses for the period of time that they've been running them, none of them come from anything. They come from a place of necessity.
He really is obsessed with Justin Hems. Loves Justin Hems. Ooh, I love you, Justin Hems.
Any context? Like, I don't know about this guy.
Jack
Justin
Henderson.
Hems.
I think he's a buyer's agent. He runs a business. I got a lot of respect for Jake. For what's his name?
Jack.
Justin Hems.
no, I'm talking about Jack
Yeah.
Henderson.
Yeah.
I think he's done really well in terms of the properties that he's purchased and brought. He's a young fella too.
I don't know a lot about him, but that
No,
sounds...
and I like some of his content. I mean, that one was interesting. I mean, like he's talking about it's easier to come from poverty? Is that what like he's getting at, or it's harder to come from privilege to make what Justin Hems has made?
It's harder to come from privilege, I think, because he's talking about drive that you would naturally have if you don't have money.
Yeah, I think that let's clarify here. He's not talking about like the money component. I think he's trying to talk about the drive.
The drive, yeah. I think
which
so too.
I actually agree with on the drive.
Yeah.
There's a saying, if you've just eaten, you're not hungry. And that's probably where that is. So I agree. Justin Hems has done Justin Hems obviously comes from money, right? But he's multiplied that money. So he's done well. And a lot of people in his position would just
blow or sit around,
jump on a yacht, go to Santorini and just whatever. So I get that. But to suggest that, you know, you can only have success coming from poverty. I don't know about that. Like, anyone else want to?
Oh, look, I sort of think these. There's too many generalizations, isn't it? You know, it's like you've done the survey from everywhere. That I've asked all the people that have come from money, and I've asked all the people that haven't come from money, because I think the example he talks about, that business owners that he knows that are friends of his, none of them have come from money. Maybe that's just the people he knows, right?
That's true.
There's a lot of people out there who are business owners who have substantial businesses who have come from money. Yeah. He's obviously not friends with Justin Hems.
Yeah, he wants to be though. I think he wants to be.
Yeah, so I think the generalizations sometimes kill it and just oversimplifies things.
The other thing as well, when you come from money, taking risks, it's a different calculation when you're taking risks.
Yeah,
like
correct.
If you don't
Absolutely.
have money and you're putting everything in your business, there's a very different calculation of risk.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Versus if you've got $1 million and you need to put 50 grand into a business, whatever, I'll take the chance.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's everything you've got, there's a lot more on the line for someone that's
and that's the drive,
100%.
I suppose, that he's talking about.
If my dad said he's 100 million, have some fun.
Yeah.
I might turn it into 200 million. I'd like to think
We
I
also
would.
don't know how he's been brought up. Maybe he wasn't brought up entitled.
We don't.
Right?
Yeah,
So
that's exactly right. But that's a really good point about the risk, is that, because you're willing to take that risk, and a lot of entrepreneurs need to be taking risks, and that's how they make it big. So if your risk tolerance is lower, then that straight away increases your chances of success.
And I think what he's talking about as well, if you come from privilege, maybe you haven't been taught that risk culture. Like it's you've got money, you've had everything on a silver spoon almost. So there's no element of taking additional risk for no reason.
Yeah.
They haven't needed to. So whereas if you haven't come from money, then you need to take risks.
Yeah.
To get to a point of creating an amazing business or getting to 10 properties, whatever your goal is, you need to take some risks.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Property grow.
Do we agree with this guy? Yeah.
So I break it up into two things. So in terms of the drive, I mean, not without making a generalization, I feel like, if you come from a place of hunger, then you'd have a further drive. Talking about if it's easier to come from money or not. I mean, no, it's easier to come from money.
Yeah.
One thing's for certain, music choice on TikTok, so important, wasn't that? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
oh, this
For
is
sure.
This is important.
I was waiting for the inspiration to
Yeah, so inspirational.
But I think, whenever you watch stuff like this, whether that's from Jack Henderson, there's heaps of content like that. right, with that sort of music as well, right? It's really dramatic. Is you always got to take it with a grain of salt, right?
Yeah.
Is you can't just fully believe in that one opinion, and that's the definition of, how you become successful.
Maybe a kilo of salt.
Yeah, but he just said that it was like he did say it was just a thought, right?
Yeah.
He just
Yeah.
kind of looked at it from a different perspective.
Yeah, because it's also done for marketing purposes, right? Jack Henderson's a killer marketer, right?
He's great.
He's
I
amazing.
wonder, like watching that from I know, apologies to those just listening, but I wonder if he was actually talking to someone or if they shot it as if he was talking to someone.
Oh, yeah.
Very strange. Very interesting. But look, okay, all right. Well, PropTok, what do we think? PropTok, do we bring it back next week?
I love it.
Man, I think it's pretty good.
Let the people decide.
I just don't know if that was fiery enough. Let's be more fiery next time. We'll bring some really spicy prop talks.
Yeah,
And
100%.
we'll keep it going. Maybe one day there'll be a full episode of Prop Talks. But let's go back to the questions, right? I got probably one or two more. Let's see how we go. This one comes from episode 13. So it's about young Aussies ditching property for travel. And Jonah Zare, I don't know if I pronounced that one right, but would like to know. I would like to hear more thoughts from the panel about whether properties in large cities around Australia, particularly in urban areas, are even amenable to investment, given that soaring prices, or should the younger generation look more remote, particularly with population expansion, although gains may not be seen in the next 5 years, but rather in the next 10 plus years. Jason, I know you have some thoughts on this one.
Yeah, so I think we talked about this on that episode as well. There's no hot spot. So it shouldn't come down to should I invest in the capital city versus regional areas. It's all personal. Depends on what your personal goal and objective is. Your goal might be chasing, positive cash flow, where by having that property, the rental income that you receive is more than the cost of the interest on the loan and the expenses of maintaining that property. Or, for example, if we're talking about Jack Henderson, he's very big on capital growth strategies, right? So he often talks about, there's no point making $20 a week on a property. It's not going to make you wealthy.
But a lot of the property he's purchased recently, from what I've seen, is in Newcastle.
Yeah,
which is
correct.
considered a region.
A region, yeah. It's definitely a region.
But
It's not a capital
he's
city.
more-
It's not a metro.
capital city,
Yeah, it's not a metro.
He's more talking about affordability, though, isn't he?
Yeah.
Am I getting that wrong?
Bang for
Potentially,
bucks.
well, you
Yeah.
can probably speak to that because
Well,
you've
that's right.
had to look more regional.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Sydney, I suppose you're hoping that prices will still go up and that even if I'm stretching my budget, that I'll still be able to grow. But it seems like a safer option to go with something that's not maxing out my budget and looking more regionally.
That's right. So again, it comes back to your personal situation, your financial situation, your capability. What can you afford? And based on what you can afford, you look at what can you buy. Is it the only things I can buy are regional properties because that's the price point of regional properties? Or can I look at buying, say my budget's 700 grand, I can buy an apartment or a townhouse in the capital city, or do I want to buy a 600 square metre block in a regional town that I could add a granny flat? Again, strategy, objective and goals.
Know your goals.
Correct.
No analysis paralysis. Like do the research. Make a decision. Let's go.
Because there's success stories on both sides. There's people that own, say, 10 plus properties that are all cash flow positive, right? There are people who own 2-3 properties that have gone up 300% in a couple of years that they've owned it.
There's a particular word that Jonah used about being feasible, was it? Is it even amenable?
Yeah.
Like, to Sav's point, is that more about like their income is 60, 70 grand? Like Sydney is not an option. And so, it's only the regions that they can look at.
Yeah, that's what it sounds
like. It's like saying, how can you invest in Sydney? When,
like,
what are you going to do? Buy a $2 million
You can't just
home
magically increase your income to
Yeah.
whatever you need it to be.
Yeah, or for example, your budget's 450,000. So if I'm buying in Sydney, my options are very limited, for example.
It's very limited.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Possible.
I suppose,
Correct.
Unlimited.
Correct.
I suppose investing in a regional area feels scary because like you don't know as much about it. That's why I would want to buy in Sydney as well as a first home buyer because I can go and visit it. So maybe...
Would you invest in a place without having seen it? Like in real life?
I don't know. I feel like I need to feel the neighborhood and like I would go off what I would want as like as a person that's renting it. So if I wouldn't want to live there as a renter, would I want to invest in it? Right.
My strategy with I haven't had a strategy with regional areas at all in the past. And that was mainly a lot to do with employment opportunities.
Yeah.
Like I personally had always felt employment opportunities were sort of very cyclical and seasonal in regions. I think that's changed a lot after COVID with people being able to work from home or remote work or what they're doing. That's probably changed a bit. Yeah. Maybe even going back the other way. But so some of the regions have become stronger.
Yeah.
But then when you look at some of the areas that are classed as region, like Newcastle,
Yeah.
Gold Coast, like these areas are not regions.
It's like
these
you
are
say,
proper-
like you asked,
proper
is
cities.
Newcastle a region? Yeah, it is. It's a region by definition.
Well,
It's
so is
regional.
Gold
It's
Coast.
yeah.
But that's- I mean, that's
but
not
the
a region.
infrastructure there, it's looking like a metro city nowadays.
It is, well,
You know.
Gold Coast is a city.
Yeah.
Right.
So and that makes regional investing probably more palatable as well for a lot of people. Knowing, you know, you can invest in the Gold Coast, you can invest in Newcastle, you can invest in the ACT, and there are going to be jobs and infrastructure and growth. You know, so that's pretty interesting as well. Guys, I got one more question. It's from Red Dead again. It's from episode 4. So it's one of the early episodes, and I like bringing up this episode as well. It's called "Is Property a Man's Game?" I think it was a really good topic at the time, and I just want to bring it to the attention of our listeners who may have joined us recently. Like, go back, have a listen to some of the old ones because they're pretty interesting. And Red Dead was there since those days as well, and he or she,
OG.
Red Dead, was saying, this is a cracking question. How do you guys only have 200 views? This series is amazing.
I agree.
Yes.
We have more than 200 now.
Yes.
We're into the thousands now, but back then, how did we do it?
I feel like just on our style, like we come from a position of education and knowledge, but I think it's just 4 of us having a chat. I think that's what probably makes it special.
That's right. And I think, good things take time, right? Yeah, so I think it's more about the awareness of people knowing that this podcast actually exists. So, when we get comments like this, when we get engagement, it's really helpful for us.
Yeah, it is.
Right? Because it increases our reach to more people who might benefit from the information that we're talking about.
So like, share, subscribe.
Yeah,
Friends and
100%.
family.
like I said, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok. Tell your
Spotify.
friends. We're on Spotify. Yeah. Tell your friends. If you think this is content that you're enjoying and you have friends or family that might enjoy it, join the conversation. We're trying to inspire those property conversations, as I say.
Well, if you've got questions that are out there, we read them and we answer
Yeah,
them.
And the
definitely.
questions are absolutely the best.
I love
Yeah.
it.
Yes,
yeah, really
yes,
good.
the
Hit
discussions.
us in the DMs or just comment, and we'll cherry pick some questions again. I think this Q&A question episode, it's less research and work for me. So I certainly don't mind doing this every now and then.
Yeah.
And we'll bring back a few prop talks as well.
Yes.
But
Sounds good.
Yeah, guys, great to chat again. We'll be back next week. I don't know what we're going to be talking about.
I've got a great person to do for PropTok, and he's an absolute sausage. So
Does his last name?
absolute.
Does his surname?
His last name
rhyme
sounds
with my
very
surname?
similar to yours,
Okay,
and
I
I
know
think
who
he's
you're
an
talking about.
absolute
Does
sausage.
he talk about property much?
The guy's made his money from property.
Tune in to find
So-
out who we're
Apparently.
talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
What a cliffhanger.
Sausage.
Yeah, everyone know. If you know my last name, you can probably work it out. Guys, thanks for watching Property Now next week. We'll be back next week, and we'll be back with PropTok as well. See you then.
The Property Now podcast offers opinions on Australian property news for informational and entertainment purposes only, and they are general in nature. It does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. It does not constitute professional advice. Always seek expert guidance before making any property-related decisions.